الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب السماوات ورب الأرض رب العالمين، وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. ربنا لك الحمد حتى ترضى، ولك الحمد إذا رضيت، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. صل اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صفيه من خلقه وخليله وأمين على وحيه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, all praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything we have. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِّعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Anything that is working in your life, anything good that is happening in your life, it's a blessing and favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you need to be thankful. And the more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you, the more grateful you should be. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised that the more grateful you are, the more He will provide for you. وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. And also remember always that nobody has any control over you. Everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All the power, nothing happens in this universe except with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if all the people on earth gather to harm you with something that Allah did not prescribe on you, it's not going to happen. And vice versa. If all the people on earth gather to benefit you with something that Allah did not prescribe for you, it's not going to happen. So keep that in mind. That's a very essential part of Tawheed, what they call al-aqidat al-rizq, believing that everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَابْتَغُوا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الرِّزْقِ, Ibrahim alayhi salam told his people. We come on this blessed day of Friday, Jumu'ah, basically to remind one another of our duties, our obligations, trying to better understand our deed and our life so that we can succeed in this life and in the hereafter. Of course, Jumu'ah by itself will not do the job, but it's just a reminder so that we all continue during the rest of the week doing the same thing, trying to learn more about our faith and learn more about this life and do the job that we were created to do. Now, speaking about the job that we were created to fulfill, there is big similarity between hiring for a job and between creation, just to bring the idea closer to us so that we understand. When you are hired for a job, there is job description. And there are expectations. You're going to be told these. You're going to study that job description. You're going to know what is expected from you. And you're going to do it to the best of your ability. That's the only way you can succeed in your work. So you're going to understand, again, job description and expectations and fulfill them to the best of your abilities. That's how you succeed in your work. That's how you'll be happy. You'll be promoted, and you keep that job, and your boss will be pleased with you. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. Very similar. In this life, we were not hired, we were created. But also there is a job, and there are expectations. And you'd better understand them, learn them, and fulfill them to the best of your abilities. When you do that, you will succeed, not only in this life, but also in the hereafter. You'll be happy, Allah will be pleased with you. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased with you, you got it made. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide you to the best decisions, will guide you to the best choices, will protect you, will forgive you, will grant you tawfiq, which is making the right decision when you are not sure. Put barakah, blessing, in your time and in your health and in your wealth, etc. So that's very big similarity. And nowadays, what makes this similarity even stronger, nowadays, even in your job, you're expected to do what? You're expected to do professional development. Not only do a job, but also learn and improve. So you need to attend workshops, training, so that you can learn more skills. That's very similar when it comes to the creation. There is a job to be done, and there is also work on yourself to be a better person. There is a job that needs to be done, and there is professional development at work, there is also self-development in this life. And these are essential parts of our deen. Our deen revolves around these two things. Things that you are expected to do, and to do them well to the best of your ability, and working on yourself to be a better version of yourself every day. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us for a specific job. That's unfortunately many Muslims do not realize that, or they have very superficial idea about it. And there is a job description, and there are expectations, and you'd better learn them. Learn that job description and expectations, and fulfill them to the best of your ability. What is this job? What is this job that we were created to do? Again, two parts. One is to be all you can be, to be the best version of yourself, to keep improving in everything, in your knowledge, in your character, in your worship, in your health, everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see you, will be pleased with you when you are a better person every day. So that's one track of our mission. As long as you are living, you should be learning and improving, growing. You cannot be the same person day in, day out. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Man istawa yawmahu fahuwa maghbun." The one who does not improve from one day to another is a loser. Because you have been given 24 hours, another 24 hours, and you did not take advantage of them. You are the same person like yesterday. So keep that in mind, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be the best possible version of yourself. And never fool yourself by saying, this is the way I am. No, that's not the way you are. That's the way you chose to be. Because everything in life is a choice. But there are some choices that we keep doing them for a long time, they become habits. And when they become habits, we think this is the way we are and we cannot change. That's not true. Yes, habits are not easy to change, but they can be changed. If there is a will, there can be change. So don't fool yourself to say, this is the way I am. That's not the way you are, this is the way you have chosen to be. And you can choose to be different. You can choose to be better if you want. And then, that's one track. Second is to maximize your contribution to the greater good. Al-Islah. إن أريد إلا الإصلاح ما استطعت. Not only do something good, no, do your utmost. On both tracks, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do your utmost. In Tazkiyah track, to be a better person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do your utmost. اتقوا الله حق تقاته. And then when it comes to advancing the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and executing His plan, not giving your spare time or your spare money, no. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again wants you to do your utmost. وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادٍ. Do your utmost. That's the meaning of jihad, by the way. You do jihad on both tracks. Jihad, doing your utmost. Jahadu, meaning they spared no efforts. They pushed their limits. They did everything they can, both on the track of Tazkiyah and on the track of Islah. So this is what the job that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has assigned to us, and we need to do our best to understand it and fulfill it to the best of our ability, if we are, and we should, be serious about seeking the good pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ittiba'u ridwanillah. You should never take that for granted. You should never say that I think I'm doing enough and I'm good as I am. You always try to push yourself to move to the next level. Ittiba'u ridwanillah. Ridwanillah, the good pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not something that is guaranteed for anybody. And you should never take it for granted. It's not something that you already reserved or it's in your pocket. It's something that you keep working for. You keep working for and hoping for. So what happened? Why this is not the case? What happened throughout the history of Islam? Unfortunately, Muslims, majority of them at least, rather than doing this, rather than accepting that there is a job, and there is job description that they need to understand and fulfill it, and there are some expectations that they need to meet. No. Majority of Muslims went for convenience, which is what? We wrote our own job description. Just imagine you do this at work and see what happens. At work, you say, I'm going to throw away this job description, I'm going to write my own and do the work that I like or the work that is convenient. Believe it or not, that's what we have done throughout history. So this big mission, big job, that we're expected to learn it and understand it and do it to the best of our ability all our life, we reduced it to what? We reduced it to a short list of do's and don'ts. That all what you need to do is to pray, fast Ramadan, stay away from adultery, from drinking, and you're fine. So there is nothing to learn and there is nothing to push yourself for. It's the same routine that you do every day, and that's why majority of Muslims are very complacent and stagnant. Why? Because they lost the drive to learn or to improve or to push themselves, because what they need to earn, they're taking it for granted. What they should work for, they take it for granted. And you know, when you take something for granted, you don't put any efforts. So nowadays, there is hardly any tazkiyah. Tell me how many Muslims you know who are really have a self-development plan, who are really in the business of learning and growing and improving. You meet someone after a few years, and you find the same person. There is hardly, because during those years did not read anything new, did not implement anything new. He was doing what he used to do day in, day out. So very complacent. There is hardly any tazkiyah, and there is hardly any islah. Lot of Muslims nowadays, they think that you can be a good Muslim even though you are very passive. Very passive meaning you are not engaged. You are not worried about what's going on around you. You are just living for yourself. A lot of Muslims, they think, and when they want to do more, they do more ibadat. They do more prayers maybe, they do more, but they don't know that there is another part of their job, which is to make this world a better place. Islah. It's like for you to be the best version of yourself, the best possible version of yourself. Also, part of your job is to contribute to make this world the best possible version. So you find Muslims nowadays, as I said, doing that minimum and very complacent. And many of them are passive and disengaged. And interestingly or ironically, Muslims spend a lot of time following the news and politics and talking about it, but doing nothing about it. It's very strange. I find it very strange that we are probably more than anybody on earth, more than any other community or nation who spend time following, watching, and following the news and talking about it when we gather. But in a very passive way, with just describing what's going on and complaining. Describing and complaining, rather than trying to understand why this is happening and what can we do about it. We don't ask those tough questions because the other party is much more comfortable. Just describe and complain and blame it. blame it on others rather than accepting responsibility for what happens to us. So people, even the ibadat, so people lost the drive to do or to learn. Why? Because what they need to earn, they are taking it for granted. Imagine if you are a teacher and you come to the students and tell them that you got an A in this course. Do you think the student is going to study or to work hard or even to attend class? That's it. What they are supposed to work for, they get it. They are taking it for granted, or you gave it to them. Even the ibadah. So now we're coming to that short list. First of all, we made it too short, by the way. Because even when it comes to akhlaq, lying is okay, cheating is okay, backbiting is okay. So we limited basically to khamr and zina, almost. And prayer and fasting. If you don't qualify for zakat, or you cannot perform hajj. Even those ibadat, even this short list, are not producing their effects. We perform them, but they are not making us more pious. They are not making us more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is a reason for this. Why? Because these ibadat, that prayer that you pray 5 times a day, was meant as a piece in a big picture. What is this big picture? That prayer was meant to support someone who accepted that mission and fulfilling it. So when the person abandoned that mission, prayer became obsolete. Why? Because it was meant to support you as you fulfill that big mission, that demanding mission. So when Muslims abandon their mission, even the ibadat, Muslims are fasting. A lot of Muslims are fasting. A lot of Muslims are praying. But do you see the result of this prayer and fasting? I'm not talking even about the conditions of the society, which is very embarrassing. The situation in Muslim world, you can see it. And every now and then there is another country that joins. That is becoming in terrible situation. The last field was Sudan, fortunately. I'm not talking even about that. I'm talking about even the behavior of individuals. Do you see the fruits of the salah and fasting in the interaction between people or in their behavior? You hardly see it. Except if someone was raised by parents really invested in that child, so that he is raised in a good way. Other than that, people pray and fast, but the fruits of that prayer and fasting is not there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says prescribed fasting, He said, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So, the stagnation that you see in Muslim societies and Muslim communities and Muslim individuals, that's the reason for it. People again lost the incentive, the motivation to learn or to develop themselves or to increase their contribution to the greater good. Now this is what happened. Question is how to fix it. And when we talk about something, we're not just talking to vent out anger, and we're not talking to say that our situation is hopeless. It's never hopeless. We have our great faith with us that can turn things around if we take it seriously, if we understand it properly, and if we take it seriously. How to fix this? We go back to the similarity between this life and the job. You conduct your life, or we conduct our lives like jobs. We understand the job description and the expectations and fulfill them to the best of our abilities. That's the only way we can fix. We remove this idea that we know our deen and we are doing what we're supposed to do, and we replace it by being lifelong learner. As long you are living, you are learning, you're improving, you're trying to push your limits to be a better person and to do more fi sabilillah. That's what you need to accept. That there is so much for me to learn and there is so much more to do. And then you embark on that path of learning more, implementing what you learn, and doing more fi sabilillah. And there is a starting point. There is a key, practical. And the best and probably the only way we can start this process, this transformation or change, is by studying the Quran. Studying the Quran. And I'm going to explain why. Why this is the key. Studying the Quran, because the Quran has all the information you need. The Quran has all the information you need. The Quran has the directions to Ridwanullah. Quran says it explicitly, يهدي به الله من اتبع رضوانه سبل السلام. Yahdi, Allah guides with the Quran those who are seeking His pleasure. يهدي به الله من اتبع رضوانه. So it's a book of guidance, not book of barakah. Now we are dealing with the Quran as a book of barakah. We are having nice Qurans at home. We're decorating Quran. We really take good care of it as a book. But that's not what is meant. It is meant that you study it. I mean, if you take a course and you take a good care of your textbook, but you never open it or you never study it, that's not going to do anything. Quran should be treated as a textbook. This life like a course, and Quran is the textbook. So Quran has the direction to Ridwanullah and to heaven. When you study it, you're going to follow that direction. And in the process, has the direction for your happiness and success in this life and in the hereafter. That's what you need to accept. It's one package. Ridwanullahi wal Jannah, and happiness and success in this life and in the hereafter. It's one package. And the direction for all of that is in the Quran. So you need to treat the Quran as you treated, at least as we treated your textbook when you were studying, or when you are when those who are still studying. Once we realize this, once we realize that life is a mission, hayat risala. Now we are not here for no purpose. أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا. Do you think that we created you with no reason, with no purpose? أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Do you think that you were created with no purpose, and you think you're not going to be held accountable for that job? أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ, at the end of Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. The meaning of this verse, that you were created for a specific purpose and you're going to be held accountable for fulfilling that job. وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. And you think that you're not going to be brought back for accountability. So the meaning that we get from this verse is that you were created for a purpose and you will be held accountable for fulfilling that job. Accepting the fact that Islam is not just a way of life. Because a lot of people are happy saying Islam is a way of life. Islam is much more than a way of life. Islam is a life mission. Islam is risalat hayat. It's a job that you embrace. It's a mission that you embrace and you commit to it. Unless we accept that and we embrace that mission and commit to it, things will not be fixed. And this mission, because it is big, huge, and it is noble, what is better than working for Allah or doing the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's a great responsibility, but also great honor. And that's why it is worth all the time and the efforts you put in it, whether learning it or fulfilling it. All the time and the efforts is worth it. Why? Because what is at stake here is Ridwanullah. What is at stake here is your success and happiness in this life and in the hereafter. Once we do that, we immediately realize that there is so much to do, so much more to do, and so much to learn. Quran also strengthen your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and strengthen your iman billahi wal yawm al-akhir. Most of the Quran is about Allah and the hereafter. to strengthen your iman. Take your iman, iman billah wal yawm al-akhir, believe in Allah and the day of judgment, to the next level always. Make it very strong. Reaching yaqeen, certainty. أن تعبد الإحسان أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. That's the highest level of iman. Quran helps you reaching that level. Increase the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because most of the Quran is about Allah. It's a book of Tawheed. And then increase also your iman bil yawm al-akhir, because we tend to forget. In this life there is so much distractions that we tend to forget about death and the hereafter, and we get immersed in this life. So you go and study the Quran, brings that back, remind you that, and make this life become smaller. Anything that you were worried about it, if you read the Quran, you read it the right way, it becomes really much smaller. You were worried about your job, you were worried about your future, you were worried about your children, and then you come and study the Quran, increases the peace of tawakkul, relying on Allah, remind you that everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you shouldn't worry a lot about rizq and about job. It doesn't mean that you should do your best, but not worry. So Quran, ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innu al-qulub. That these hearts, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, they find their peace and tranquility in the remembrance of Allah, in the dhikr, in the Quran. Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innu al-qulub. Quran, book of guidance, strengthen and reminds you and strengthen your iman billahi wal yawm al-akhir, brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also explains that job description and those expectations in so many ways. And Quran, yes, things are repeated in Quran, but it's not redundant. It's very eloquent. It's the same meaning, reinforced, but every time from a different angle. Same story, repeated, but every time from a different angle. You will never get bored reading the Quran. Even if you read the same story in several surah, it's still, because it is so eloquent. It's a beautiful book, even linguistically. And linguistically, it doesn't even have to be in Arabic. It's an amazing book in any language. So things are reinforced in Quran. Things that we tend to forget, Quran reminds us of our duties and obligations, explain our mission in this life and the expectations. And for all of these reasons, it is a must on every Muslim to study the Quran continuously as long you are living. This is a commitment for life. This is not a course you take for a semester, this is a course that you take for life. And the Quran is the textbook, and you should be studying it day in, day out. Now, how much you can do, that depends. Everybody is different, everybody's circumstances are different. But it should be regular. Hopefully, daily. And again, I'm talking not about reading. There is a huge difference between reading the Quran and studying it. Reading the Quran, you're going to focus on the quantity, and you will be happy that you read several pages. Studying the Quran is different. Studying the Quran for guidance, you're going to ask yourself, what did I get from this session, and how can I implement it right away? And that's how Quran will make you a better person every day. As I mentioned last time, I'm going to show you, we need to learn the styles of the Quran. I mentioned some of them last time, and we took a passage quickly from Surah Luqman. Today, a passage from Surah Al-Dariyat. Inshallah, we'll come back in the second khutbah, talk about the difference, how we study the Quran properly, and the difference between just reading it and between reading it for barakah or for rewards and studying it for guidance. وَتُوبُ إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه. نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. Dear respected brother and sister in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Dhariyat says, إن المتقين في جنات وعيون. آخذين, it's a scene from the hereafter, from Qiyamah. آخذين ما آتاهم ربهم إنهم كانوا قبل ذلك محسنين. كانوا قليلا من الليل ما يهجعون وبالأسحار هم يستغفرون وفي أموالهم حق للسائل والمحروم وفي الأرض آيات للموقنين وفي أنفسكم أفلا تبصرون وفي السماء رزقكم وما توعدون. The righteous will be in gardens. Right there, when you read the Quran, because you are looking for the Ridwanullah, so the word muttaqeen and the word muhsineen should ring a bell for you. Should make you alert, because that's what you're looking for. You want to be like these. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people that ended up in heaven, in gardens, you need to be attentive to know what they were doing. And anytime you read the Quran and you come across the word of muttaqeen or muhsineen or ibadallah al-mukhlasin, you're gonna be very attentive to know what they are doing. They will be in garden with flowing springs. They will receive their Lord's gifts because of the good they did before. This is when someone knows how to read the Quran, that's when you really be very, very attentive. Because Allah is telling you there are some people who ended up in heaven because of what they were doing. And now He's going to tell you what they were doing. And that's where you start checking yourself. So Allah called the muttaqeen and muhsineen, which means that really that's what you're looking for, and you need to be, because of the good they did before. Sleeping only little at night. Qiyamul Layl. These people, they pray at night. Praying at dawn. وَبِالْأَسْحَارِ هُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. For Allah's forgiveness. They wake up before Fajr to pray for Allah for forgiveness. Giving a rightful share of their wealth to the beggar and the deprived, to the people who are poor. You start checking yourself against these characteristics. And maybe you forget one of them, so now you are reminded you can go ahead and do it. Maybe for a long time you did not give anything, so you're going to go ahead and give. Maybe for a long time you did not pray at night, so maybe tonight you're going to pray. Maybe for a long time you did not wake up just to pray before Fajr, that's a Sahar. It's a very special time, and then you're reminded to do it. On earth there are signs for those with sure faith. Quran full of verses directing us to reflect on the universe. وفي الأرض آيات للموقنين. Quran is inviting you to learn about this world. Tafakkur. Learning about this universe, how does it work? Learning about your body, learning about everything. Learning. وفي الأرض آيات للموقنين. And in yourselves too. Learning about yourself. Your physical, your health, and also your psychology and everything related. Do you not see? In the sky is your sustenance. Imagine yourself coming to read these verses while you are worried about money or about future or about retirement or about work or about being fired. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُعَدُونَ. In the sky is your sustenance and all that you are promised by the Lord of heavens and earth. All this as real as you are speaking. Small, short passage of the Quran, and you can see how many things you are reminded of, how many things they were probably weak, and these verses will strengthen them on you, and that's it. If you did this passage on one day, that's enough. Just few verses. And sometimes maybe you end up doing one verse, but understanding it and implementing it. Understanding it, because Quran is a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to you to tell you what is expected from you, and what you are supposed to do and what makes him pleased with you. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا وتوفنا وانت راض عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها وخير أيامنا يوم نلقاك. متعنا اللهم بالنظر إلى وجهك الكريم. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربونا صغارا وارحم موتانا وجميع موتى المسلمين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. صل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وأقم الصلاة.